Go ahead, Alex.
The biggest thing is we're assuming is that on the Indiana player side, they probably didn't give a shit that he was on game day, right? Talking like if they did, that's where the issue would come in. If Curtis Rourke was like, hey, I didn't like that he did that, the team didn't, that's a different story. But I mean, who knows? Maybe that gave the team extra motivation. I mean, it didn't work in the game, but I mean,
I don't
maybe
really
it
see a
did.
world where that motivates your team for you to be on
I
stage.
think it's from the mindset, Ben, and like I kind of wanted to ask this of Cignetti. For I don't really care for the dude. I think he's a great coach. Begrudgingly, he's the best head coach in college football right now, right? But so we could all agree he's a smart dude. I wonder if he realized, hey, watching tape, Notre Dame is a superior team athletically than we are. We need to kind of go in this game with an edge, with a fire. I'm going to go and talk up my team all week, even 5 minutes before the game. Like, we're going to go out there and we're going to get this in belief that we're going to go beat the shit out of Notre Dame.
It would have worked against any other coach other than Marcus Freeman. Marcus Freeman is such a good players coach that he knows how to use that. There's certain coaches that it would have worked. It's just Marcus Freeman's such a good players coach that he knows how to motivate his team.
Well, James Franklin.
Like, you're going to let them talk about you like that.
James Franklin did the same type of thing at, was it the Orange Bowl Media Day, trying to like sun Marcus Freeman? And it's like, you could tell Marcus Freeman just going like, okay.
But we're looking at it on a Notre Dame perspective. Some of these coaches have done it against other teams, and it worked, right? They went out there with an attitude, right? I mean, we saw Marcus different, but we saw Marcus Freeman run out there before the A&M game, like just ready to roll.
But
right?
who did he do that around?
His players.
He did. Yeah. He didn't do it around Nick Saban, Pat McAfee, all that.
I think
there's the players.
There's a couple of different ways to look at it, right? Because I think this is where I thought Ryan was going with that, where it's like Curt Cignetti, whether you like him or not, very clearly watches a lot of film. He's the smartest guy in the room. I don't think that you needed to explain, or someone else needed to explain to Curt Cignetti what he was looking at on the film in terms of the talent disparity between Notre Dame in 2024 and Indiana in 2024. And so while you watched a couple plays like that, like the Jeremiah Love run, where he goes 99 yards and runs past everybody, and is just the best player on the field, we come out of this football game talking about, I can't believe Curt Cignetti just went on ESPN, and not, I can't even remember who lost contain on that side. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I don't think that he ever goes into a football game thinking he's going to lose. But I also think, like, if you have the understanding, at least the way Indiana's team works, is that Curt Cignetti spends zero time interacting with the defense at practice. He spends a lot of time watching the offense, but he largely lets the position coaches work their units. And so while it optically, and like, you'd want the head coach in the locker room before the game in terms of like delivering the message to the team and like strategic X's and O's stuff, like that stuff's being delivered by the guys in the locker room, not by Curt Cignetti, who's going to give like some rah-rah-esque type of like, here's what we need to do speech, and then ready to roll. He coaches the coaches coach the players. And so I think there were a couple of different reasons why he did it, but also like, how legendary would that clip have been if they went in and like, instead of Curtis Rourke with his broken thumb and his destroyed ACL throwing a pick in the red zone, like Indiana comes in and all of a sudden they're leading 7-0 and everyone in the stadium shitting down their leg. Like, I can't believe that this Indiana team is rolling in here. Like, we're having a completely different conversation. And so I really didn't hate it, especially with the way that they then immediately retooled in the offseason, went into the 2026 season or 2025 season being completely overlooked and won a national championship.
Well, and that was the big thing. I think a lot of people, and I will say this, me myself, I openly said it, Curt Cignetti was a fraud after that game because he didn't do that well against really good teams. But also, he got his talent. He proved me wrong. I was a fucking idiot for saying that. I'll admit right now. Like, but at the end of the day, like, there's a certain point where, like, he understood what he needed to do. And if he believes that's the best thing to do, good for him. He's a championship head coach. I'm a fucking IT guy at a hospital. So, like, he knows a lot more about football than I do.
And so it's like, that's the part that people missed, where it's like, they thought Indiana was a bunch of mercenaries. They paid a bunch of money for this roster. Look, he's a fraud, poof, and gone. And in reality, like, there was a real culture being built and a double down and a real learning that happened in that game where all those guys that walked into that Notre Dame environment and were like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm here, didn't look like that when they played in the big games in 2025.
And to be fair, I want to say this too. Like he does like, and this is for Ryan before I ask my question to Alec. Ryan's one of the biggest shit talking Notre Dame fans I know. So I kind of imagine if Ryan was the head coach at Notre Dame, he'd be probably talking mad shit too, right? To an extent, he has his certain, but he's such a trash talker. I'm like, like you're saying
hold on a second.
Like, you talk trash.
If I will say this, I think for me and a lot of Notre Dame fans, I don't have like my thing with him, Alec, is I wouldn't sit there and say he was a fraud after that game. You could go through my entire X. I never once said that he was a fraud or anything like that. I was just more about it came off as arrogance to me and some other Notre Dame fans is bringing up NIU, talking so much crap before the game. Because it's like, and I get, again, he could have so many reasons like we talked about why he did what he did. But as an opposing fan, it comes off as, dude, have some like self-awareness. You're coaching at a program that prior to your tenure had one previous 10-win season. You're talking crap about a team that, yes, we lost to NIU, but it just won 10 straight, beating the absolute dog crap out of everybody on the schedule, just like you had done outside of the Ohio State game. It's like with Marcus Freeman, he doesn't do that, right? He's not the type of coach to go out there and talk crap about a team before a game. The closest thing to that Ohio State fans will bring up is like his first season playing at Ohio State. He was asked about like, what's it like being a former Ohio State player playing against your old team? And he's like, being at Notre Dame, I've learned that we actually have to do school here. And Ohio State fans took offense to that, obviously.
I mean, Quincy Porter said the same thing when he transferred.
Quincy Porter and Mylan Graham both said the same.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't somebody just say that?
Remember, we had the guy who committed to Penn State because we told him he couldn't take classes online. So just remember.
I do have a question now I wanted to ask. I said this earlier. I do think that Indiana is the closest we will get to a Cinderella story in college football. The March Madness Cinderella. Like, I think it's the greatest ever.
Unless Northwestern does it.
I was going to say Northwestern, Rutgers,
or a group of five,
Purdue.
I do want to ask.
Rutgers already did it.
I always ask this, and I'm like, how? Right? Curt Cignetti, everywhere he went, from JMU. I'm from Virginia, so I knew him at JMU. Right? Goes to Indiana. And it just blows my mind that, like, I'm going to ask this, and it's like, how are you so good that no matter where you go, it doesn't matter? Like, you just go from JMU, you're successful, you have, double-digit win seasons, you go to Indiana and immediately make the playoff, immediately win a national championship. Like, it's like, how? Like, that's such a 1%, like how good do you have to be, and why do you think that's the case? Like, how is he that good?
Obviously, Curt Cignetti gets all the credit because he is the big personality and he's the head coach. But the biggest thing that people miss when they talk about that move from James Madison to Indiana is that he brought his entire coaching staff with him. The only coach that was retained from the current Indiana staff was Bob Bostad, who was legendary Wisconsin offensive line coach who built up all those Wisconsin offensive lines that we grew up on. And so the quarterbacks coach, the receivers coach, and the offensive coordinator, the tight ends coach, special teams coordinator, the running backs coach, the D-ends coach, the defensive tackles coach, Pat Kuntz, who you guys are very familiar with, the linebackers coach and defensive coordinator, Brian Haynes. And then they also went and hired the corners coach, Rod Ojong, and safeties coach, Ola Adams. But the coaching staff that they brought in and the culture they were able to create by not only bringing the staff, but bringing over 13 JMU guys that all played significant roles. They brought the entire program over and then infused the guys who could play in the Big Ten with Big Ten athletes. Like, Tom Allen's problem was not like recruiting the top half of the roster. It was everything else and trying to figure out like how to maintain a good football program and keep good coaches around. Like Curt Cignetti showed up with an elite program at James Madison, got a Big Ten budget, and was like, cool, like I'm just going to become modern day Alabama now. Like people forget he was on the sideline. He was the recruiting coordinator and helped architect that initial Nick Saban national championship. And so while that Notre Dame game in 2024 was his biggest football game to date as a head coach, I mean, he won a national championship as part of that Nick Saban staff. So that's a guy who had been there, done that at every single level of football. And so the continuity and the culture that most people spend 2-3 years trying to create by recruiting through high school, he just showed up with.
There's going to be a regression of some sort. I mean, even if they win a natty, I don't see them going 16-0 again in a natty.
I agree.
With the regression aspect.
If they do, then they're going to build the fucking statue within days.
They're building one anyway.
Do you think that there's a chance that they could miss the playoffs this year?
I would be surprised, only because of the amount of time, effort, energy that Curt Cignetti put into roster construction. Like he is the general manager. And so he's sitting there, he's watching all the film. He met individually at least 30 minutes each with all the transfers that they brought in. And so while they had to replace a lot, they're bringing back 4 out of 5 starters on the offensive line. They brought in Nick Marsh, but Charlie Becker's back, who is the number 1 receiver in the country from week 11 on. And then on the defensive side of the ball, the 2 linebackers that they're bringing back were Elijah Hardy and Bones Jones. Were all Big Ten guys, borderline All-America guys.
You got Burnham from the game. That's a really good edge.
Well,
who's
right?
Awesome.
Well,
that's a solid edge get. I don't care what you're going to say about
and he looks
that.
big in camp too.
hey, Sean, like he's good, but he was going to be a rotational
Holy
guy.
shit, Frable, come on.
No, bro, come on.
Pat Coogan's good. Patrick Coogan was good, but he was going to be behind Craig this year.
He was.
So it's okay that we lost him.
So thankful.
not?
Thank you guys so
Was
much.
he not? Was he
He
not
was going to be
told
behind
Oh,
Craig.
thank
Well,
you.
I will
Yeah,
say
yeah.
this. I did hear
Because-
I don't think
because
Indiana
Ashton
makes
Craig-
the run they had without Coogan.
Because Ashton Craig,
100% not.
see, that's
Ashton
my thing.
Craig is a better player. That's
the
whole thing.
I went back and forth with some Indiana fans about this. They're like, oh, well, Marcus Freeman made a mistake with Craig. I'm like, 132 college football coaches would make the same mistake. No one saw Pat Coogan like that. Pat Coogan, the leap from even like we got fucking dominated by Ohio State in the middle. The leap that Pat Coogan made from last year to this year was a strong, like humongous. And in certain situations, I think Pat Coogan was better this season than Craig when Craig played. But at the end of the day, like 132 teams make that decision. All 30 NFL teams make the same decision. But Patrick Coogan just proved like, hey, you all 132, all 30 teams, you're all wrong. Like I had a better season. So yeah.
I still think Ashton Craig
I
is
also
still the
think he
better
got
player.
his degree
But
from Notre Dame, and he knew that
did.
he wasn't going to start. So, I mean, it just made sense. He got what he wanted. He made the natty with Notre Dame. He knew that. Same thing with Rocco Splendor. They played because of injuries. They knew that when all of these players were healthy, they were going to be backups again, right? I mean, that Notre Dame
look at
playoff
Rocco.
team, they said, was one of the most injured playoff teams that they've seen in the playoffs.
well, we
And they still
made it that
because
far.
of
We made it that far with nine starters out.
I don't think
And
we
that-
make
and-
it that far, and I said the same with Indiana. If Pat Coogan's not on that offensive line, he's such a good leader.
Rose Bowl
He's such a
MVP.
good leader that he
Okay,
brings
Sean.
together a unit.
Sean, I think two
John's
things.
preaching
to
right
consider.
now.
I think Coogan was really good for the playoff run we had. I think player-wise, Ashton Craig was a better player than him, and there's a reason why he started over him before and after that. He got the injury.
I'm not saying
Like
he's
that
a better
is-
player or not a better player. I'm saying that we made the run that he did because he was so passionate about being the position that he was in
Yeah.
that he led that team. You saw the videos before the Orange Bowl. You saw the videos before the Sugar Bowl. He's sitting there saying, let's fucking go whoop their ass and show them what Notre Dame is fucking about, and is the one leading that offensive line out.
Right? I'm just
quarters of
saying that
fuck
as a
you
leader
football? Standpoint, I don't think we win those games. I'm not saying we don't win those games. I'm saying, especially the Penn State with how close that is, I'm just saying that without him, I don't know if we are as successful. And I think it's the same with Indiana. Like Alex said, that he was such a good leader for that team that he was able to lead them as a leader. He might not be as good of a player as, Ashton Craig, Charles Jagusah, all these players, but as a leader, he was probably a top 3 player leader that we had on the team last year. 2 years ago.
So Sean, here's my thing, and
Well,
this
real
goes
quick,
back to Ben's-
Indiana
go ahead.
absolutely doesn't. Indiana does nothing this year if Pat Coogan is not the starting center. I mean, like, listen, they would have won football games, but if they had to figure out somebody else besides Coogan and fit in with the other 4, like, he was quite literally exactly what Indiana needed in every, like, as a leader, as a football player with the experience, the ability to play in big games, like having a different perspective, like everything that he brought to the Indiana locker room was exactly what we needed.
Yeah.
Like I like Pat Coogan as much as the next Notre Dame fan. Like I love the kid, but the thing I get annoyed with Indiana fans on X was, especially after winning the Natty, is like you guys, like you said, Ben, you guys made a mistake. You guys let the wrong guy go. Same thing now with you guys getting Burnham, and it's like Indiana is doing a building their roster still mainly from the portal. We bring in 4 and 5-star offensive linemen every single cycle like it's nothing. We have a 5-star offensive lineman in Charles Jagasaw who he missed an entire season pretty much. Comes in against Georgia, Penn State, was critical in those games and hadn't played football in a year and was that good to where he was able to perform in those games.